Welcome to Behind the DM Screen. It is November of 2025. We are two DMs.
Normally three.
Today,
only two.
We are short a Sam today, but we weren't sure when we would be short a Sam, so I didn't bother to get a sub. So I think that's okay, because I don't think that Mike Shea and myself are going to have a hard time filling the time.
Filling the space? Yeah, I think we'll be all right.
I think we'll get along okay. So it is myself, Jeff Greiner, and Mike Shea, like I said, from Sly Flourish. We're two DMs talking about our games, helping each other out. And that is your intro. Mike, it is actually your turn to start this month. Yeah.
Okay.
So what game were we talking about with you? You were talking about
I think we're going to talk about City of Arches.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a good time because I'm definitely within 4 sessions of finishing the campaign.
Now, are you like me who says that, makes the mistake of telling your players that, and then ends up being grossly wrong?
But I don't think so.
I consistently tell my players, I think we're like 2 or 3 episodes away from done, and then it ends up being like 2 months.
Mapped out. Yeah, I think I've got it mapped out. I think we're okay. Because we're right at the end. So the characters are 19th level. They're going to probably be 20th level in the next couple of sessions. It might be tomorrow. It might be a week from now.
This is the campaign where you took like 2 of the story arcs that you built out in City of Arches and stacked them on top of each other.
I did, yeah. So they did the whole Key of Worlds arc, which has got them to 12th to 13th level or something like that. And then I threw in the Nameless King arc.
Yeah.
On top of it, with the idea that the stuff that was going on in the early parts of the Nameless King had been going on anyway, but the characters weren't directly involved in all of that. I actually threw all 3 arcs together. I threw seeds of all 3 arcs together just to kind of see which one the characters would bite off of. And they bid on the Key of Worlds the most. And then I kind of threw City of Arches in. And now they've been hammering through that. And we've had a big arc where the Nameless King was released, where we had this whole kind of interesting thing where groups were trying to restore the Nameless King. To do so, they had to kill a celestial named I can't remember the name, Astaria. And so they had to kill this celestial named Astaria, who was the one that cursed the Nameless King into oblivion. But Astaria knew that they were going to kill them, and said, this actually is the best thing that can happen, because we need Ozymandias, we need the Nameless King to come back, because now is the time to actually defeat him. We couldn't defeat him before, but now we have the information to be able to defeat him now. And the only way we can actually defeat him is for him to come back. So the fact that this group is bringing him back, it actually falls into our plan. And that was a way for the players to not feel like they lost, right?
It was Doctor Strange in Avengers Endgame who saw all the timelines.
Yeah, right. Saw it. Said you got to do this.
This one looks really bad, but I swear it's the right one.
I swear it's the only one. It's the only one that works, right? Yeah. And so Astaria died. They got a bunch of powerful magic items from Astaria's armory, and then the Nameless King returned as Ozymandias, his official actual name. Right. And now everybody remembered him, and all sorts of information started flowing over everything about where he was. And so they're like, okay, great. Now what? Well, we know we have to hunt down the 3 soul vessels of Ozymandias. There are 3 of these things. They're the way, we cannot kill him until we've destroyed those 3 things. So they go back to their home base and they're talking with their allies about what to do. And then somebody comes in and says, holy cow, he's right outside. He's outside and he's murdering people right now. And so the character's like, oh my God, let's go out and see. And so they went out and there he is. And they fought him and they beat him. He was really hard, but I think they were 16th level at that point, and they beat him, and then he disappeared. And then they're like, well, okay, good news, we beat him. Bad news, we know he's coming back because his soul vessels weren't destroyed.
Right, so you were saying he was going off and getting his dragon
That's companion. Right. So then he was doing his quest, and his quest was do 3 things. 1, get his dragon mount back, which is a fiendish ancient red dragon named Zareth. 2 was get his vestments, his items of power, and he has 3 items of power: a staff of the Magi, robes of the Archmagi, and a ring of 3 wishes. And then third is to get an idol that will allow him to open a gateway to the realm of Chul, the abyssal realm of Chul, so that he can make a pact with the demon prince of Chul named Abraxas.
Yes.
In order to get a new army, right? He's like, I need a new army. And to get that new army, he had to give up another piece of his soul. So there's a fourth piece of his soul, which he then
a new Horcrux
connected to. Yeah, right. Which he connected to Abraxas. So the characters, while he was getting his things, the characters were doing other things. They went to this place called the Sundered Mountain, where one of his soul vessels were. They found out that in the Sundered Mountain, they were building these things called death golems, which he was also going to use as part of his army. They stopped that from happening, but a handful of them were still built. They just don't know where. They went to the Tower of Kartan, this magical tower that of mages and archmages who had been loyal to the Nameless King in centuries past, and then switched sides against him during the previous war. And he went back. He sent agents there to try to take that tower over again. Characters defeated two of them. The archmages of the tower defeated the third, and they got the second. That was actually the first soul vessel. They got the first one there and the second one at the mountain. Then the third one, they had to go to another world, a world called Arcus, the world of dead temples. And in there, they found this massive temple to Ozymandias where everybody worshipped Ozymandias. Basically a temple as big as a city. Like there were levels of it that could have been entire cities. And there they found his third soul vessel protected by a Marilith queen named Kaveth, something like that. So they killed her and got the third soul vessel and destroyed that. And then returned back. They're like, hey, we're done. Right? We got to figure out where he is and what we're doing. And they went back to their home base, and we had some downtime where they could do some stuff. And everybody's like, well, let's, and my wife's character is like, I'm going to scry on him. I'm going to go see where he is. And other people are like, I'm going to go do some research and figure out what he had been up to and what he was doing and some other downtime stuff. And then, I said like a week goes by and I go, holy, he's here again. Right. Like he showed up. So they go out to the city and they see him there and he's walking, up. And he holds up this idol and he opens up the largest gateway of the city, this one called the Arch of Kings, which is this huge arch that covers most of it. He opens it up into Chul, and this army of demons
which is like a mystery in as you describe it in the book, right? Like, what is this arch? We don't know what this arch is. Right. Nobody knows what this arch is.
Turns out it's the arch that allows him to summon up,
his army.
It's big enough to summon a demon prince, right? But he had all these war demons that Abraxas gave him. And Zareth, his massive mount, comes flying over the top too, right? And so now war has come to the City of Arches, and that's where the game is going to begin tomorrow.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, how? So I started writing down like, how's this going to work, right? What are we going to do? And then like, okay, this isn't going to be one session. This is almost certainly going to be a battle that's going to take 2 sessions. This is a 6-hour fight, right? Like, this is not, up maybe as many as 7 19th level characters, because I invited our one on-call player to join as well, because I'm like, it's a big final battle. I don't want anybody to miss it if they don't have to. It may not be, right? It may turn out that people can't make it, but whatever. So I was like, how about there are basically 4 main armies or groups of resources that the bad guys have, and 4 resources that the good guys have. And so the bad guy resources are Ozymandias himself, Zareth, the ancient red dragon, the death golems that he had kept, and the army of demons. And the good guys have the characters, 2 adult dragons, an adult gold and an adult silver dragon, the mages of Kartan, right, the remaining mages of Kartan who they helped, and the Golden Knights, which is essentially the knights of the city itself.
Right.
And my thought is the way it's going to work is the players are going to say, who do we send against who? We can send any of these groups against any of these other groups in order to protect these things. Like they're invading certain areas. We know where they're going, and who are we going to send after who? Recognizing that nobody but the characters can defeat Zareth and Ozymandias. Like nobody else is powerful enough to be able to defeat them. So you could slow them down with those other groups,
right?
But you will not defeat them.
But you have to be the one to finish them off.
You're going to have to finish them, and they're in separate places. So you're going to have to pick, somebody's going down, right? like somebody, one of these groups is going to fail.
Right.
Who is it going to be? Right. Because you can go after Ozymandias and send another group after Zareth, but Zareth is going to defeat whoever you send, because there's no way Zareth's not going to finish them. So, you know, a little bit of a hard choice that the characters are gonna have to make there. And also saying like, hey, out of game, you can't split the party. Right? I'm not gonna run 2 different battles at 2 different spots.
Right.
So they're gonna get to choose kind of who to, and they could say, like, okay, for the time being, we're gonna let other groups slow down Ozymandias and Zareth while we go finish off that demon army to make sure that the people of the city aren't destroyed.
Do they have the time and the opportunity to call up other possible resources that weren't sort of in your plan based off of what they played?
We could work it out. Yeah. So I don't know who they would pick. I've got a handful of other ones, right?
Sure.
They have a guy they absolutely hate, who was a caller for a villain that they had long ago, but they killed the villain, but then the caller, quote unquote, became a good guy, but they still hate him, named Giles Freerunner. And Giles Freerunner ended up leaving and taking over the villain. He was a thrall of a Ifriti lord named Scraith, and Scraith died, and he went and took over Scraith's position in the city of Brass. And he said, hey, if you ever need me, give me a call and I'd be happy to come there. And he's like, Lord Giles Freerunner of the city of Brass. And they're like, oh, great. He elevated up apparently. So they could call him if they wanted to. There's a vampire queen that they rescued long ago. And she hangs out in the underworld, but she could come up and help them. So there are other groups, right? And you know, there are other people there. A fun complication is that the queen, who's kind of she's a young woman, right? She's like, the late teens, early 20s woman. She's like, I'm not leaving the city and I want to help. So you also got to decide where you want me to go. And they're like, can we just teleport you to another plane for a while, right? Like while this nonsense is going on. And she was like, no,
Right.
And then the thing there is there's an assassin.
You could, but it would be treason,
Yeah, you could, but it would be treason. Exactly. You cannot do this. And also there's an assassin going after her, and the characters don't know that the assassin's going to be there. But as a fun complication while all this is going on is they're going to go, oh my God, Star, known as the widow of the Red Rose, is hunting the queen while we're doing this,
right,
on purpose, because Star knows now's the time.
Right, there's plenty of chaos. Right, now's the time.
Right, plenty of chaos. So now's the time to kill the queen. So now they got like, oh, we got to go rescue her. Right, we got to deal with Star.
Now on the other hand, does the assassin make any money if the queen dies, but Ozymandias wins anyway?
Right, exactly. What happens then? I don't know. But I think
maybe the
Star's calculus is no matter what, the queen has to die, whether I succeed or not.
But maybe the assassin's calculus is, okay, I've successfully killed the queen. Now they could be recruited to help out because otherwise they lose.
Right. So I don't know how that's going to play out. It's just going to be like another little side thing that's happening at the same time, which is why I said if I've got all this like side stuff going on, it could be a longer than 3 hour game.
I say two sessions may not be enough.
I think 2 sessions would be all right. I'm pretty good about pacing. And I'm pretty sure I can get it done in 2 sessions.
I'm pretty good at pacing. I'm not always good at predicting how long my players will spend.
So I am. I'm usually pretty good. Yeah. I'm usually pretty good about figuring that out. So the other fun bit is like, what is Ozymandias doing now? And like mine is like, what does he do with the Ring of Three Wishes? Right, like he could do a lot of things.
I mean, that occurred to me, like the robe of the archmage and the staff of the magi. Like, I get what those are going to do, but
those are bound. Those are nice bounded things. But a ring of three wishes is everything.
But the ring of three wishes is like, oh my God, like.
Yeah. So I have some thoughts. I have some ideas. Like one is like if they go after Zareth, he might resurrect Zareth, right? So like. They could go through the trouble of killing Zareth and like, yeah, he's dead. And then he pulls up his ring and then Zareth comes back again. Like, oh God, right? Which could be kind of sucky, but I'm not sure. Another idea is that he'll use it to summon the huge meteor swarm to try to destroy the city. And they have to like figure out how to stop the meteors from smashing into the city and destroying everything. And then a third is he opens up.
Have you seen, did you run through, I know we talked about it with Sam. Did you run through Rime of the Frost Maiden?
I did.
I think that's the one where there's an actual like
Sam and I argued about it for
I think that's the one where there's an actual scroll of like summon meteor where you can pull a comet or whatever out of the atmosphere.
Right.
There's your inspiration.
Yeah. So the idea, and then my third, which I really liked, is he opens up an archway with the ring and summons a Tarrasque from the world of Falk. Planet of Tarrasques.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, oh my God, we got to deal with that too. There's a Tarrasque that just showed up in the middle of our fight.
Is the assumption that the Ring of Three Wishes has all three wishes left
all
in
three.
it.
Yeah. He kept it handy,
And
right?
and
he has wish as a regular spell,
Sure.
So he can even do it a fourth time. Right? He's got three of them.
But there's a risk when you do it yourself because you could always lose it.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, he'll. But the other one is he's like an absolute master of magic. Like his stuff doesn't backfire on him. Like this dude's been casting spells for 2,000 years. He's the only one that can use a Ring of Three Wishes to do 9th level spells. Right? Like everyone else is limited to 8th. But he's like, nope, I get to go a spell higher because I know how to talk to this thing. Yeah. So I thought those would be kind of on top of him hurling damage like a crazy person.
So is he going to use? Is the idea that he uses all 3 wishes during this battle?
I think so. Yeah, I think the idea is that like each round he's using a wish on top of doing all of his other stuff. Like that's the other cheap thing is like he not only can use a Ring of Three Wishes, it doesn't take his full action to do so. He can do that plus other stuff.
No, absolutely, yeah. Because it occurs to me like the smart play is to not use up all of your wishes in one time and save them. But but on the other hand, it's also the smart play to not hold that kind of resource into reserve when you're about to die.
Yeah.
So you got to have
like are they gonna beeline for him, right? Like they're gonna just hammer over to him. So he's gonna need this stuff, right? He's gonna,
At one point, you talked about that there could be sort of another act to the story dealing with Abraxas and going into into Hells.
So that's the whole soul vessel thing, right? And I got a fun angle for this one too. So when he dies, they're gonna learn through other things that he still has a piece of his soul left, and yet it's bound somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what's up with that? And then when he dies, they'll know, oh wow, it went into Chul, right? That his last remaining soul bit is in Chul. And because he made this pact with Abraxas, so now Abraxas has the soul of Ozymandias in his scepter that he carries. And now we got to go into Chul. If we really want to destroy him, we have to go into Chul and destroy him. And that's why I said there's going to be 2 more sessions of them going into Chul.
Well, and that's where.
But I've got an angle there too.
If he holds a wish in reserve, it can be related to that. It can be.
Yeah, maybe. Right. Right. Yeah, and then the fun bit there is a long time ago, the characters released another Celestial who had been kind of corrupted named Vriss. Mm-hmm. And Vriss went into hell and disappeared for a while. And I think while they're in the process of fighting Ozymandias and the armies of Abraxas are invading the City of Arches, Vriss is going to go kill Abraxas. And so when they go in to try to stop Abraxas, he's already dead. Only now dead. Vriss is there, and Vriss has the rod, and is like, I don't know if I want to give up the soul of a Arch Lich, right? Like he could be a really powerful ally for me. And and then they got to deal with this CR30 Celestial that they released, some number of sessions ago.
I'm a big fan of PCs creating their own problems.
Yeah, well, then this one they'll know. Like, well, they've had it on their list. Like, yeah, someday we're gonna have to do something about Vriss, right? And it's like, well, Vriss is gonna come to you, right?
Well, and that also.
I don't think anybody will be like they would be. I'm trying to stay cognizant of like that. I don't want to pull a Game of Thrones thing and like change the whole story on them in the last act.
Sure.
But like, I think fighting Ozymandias is what they really want to do. Fighting and defeating Ozymandias is what they really want to do. Abraxas are like, we never really, we never saw him really. We know he's there. Well, they're not going to be upset if they don't fight Abraxas, but they do know Vriss because they faced Vriss before, and so I think they will be happy.
And having Vriss kill Abraxas and be the last sort of opponent or whatever also helps tie up a loose end that could have just been sort of a narrative, epilogue.
Because I don't think anybody's going to care about not fighting Abraxas, right? Like they never really dealt with him, but I think they definitely want to deal with Vriss, and so this is a way of bringing Vriss closer, so that it ties up. Yeah, same thing with the assassin. The assassin was a thing that they've been dealing with for a while. They knew she was out there. They knew she was trying to kill the queen. They just hadn't seen her in months. Well, that's because she's waiting for this opportunity to go and stab the queen, and so I don't know how that's going to play out, right? Like. Yeah. It could be,
How long has this campaign been going on?
That's a good question. Not quite 2 years. So May 2024 was when I think we started. Yes. Yeah. May 2024. So good 18 months.
Yeah. That's a good long campaign.
Yeah. So we've had it is only my second 20th level campaign that I will ever have ran. Right,
okay.
The first one being Tyranny of Dragons. The first
Okay.
one that I ran went to 20th level, and I've had a bunch that got really high. I've had a bunch that have gone to 14th, 15th, 16th level.
Right.
In fact, I've got another campaign that's 16th level now.
When you say it's your first that went 1 through 20, you mean in 5e or ever?
Yeah, in 5e.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because I did a 30 level adventure.
I thought so. Yeah.
Fourth edition. Yeah, I don't know if I went much higher. I think that might have been my longest, my only full campaign that I'd run previously to that. I think all the others were shorter campaigns, and and I don't really feel like a desperate need to constantly run 1st to 20th campaigns. Like, no. I'm pretty good. I'll be pretty happy with this one, and at that point, I think it's time for some shorter campaigns.
It's a fun thing to do, but it
is, and it's fun to do it in my world, this world that I made with this book.
Yeah.
The book was like, a bunch of printout black and white things when this started.
Yeah.
And now it's a published book. Like during that time, during that time it went through Kickstarter and went up for sale.
That's awesome.
So, it's kind of neat, to see that.
Yeah.
And
no, my first campaign in 5e. No, that's not true. My first campaign in Indiana, I went 1 to. It was pretty close to 20. It was 1 to 19 or 1 to 20.
I think, we went to like 18th level one time. I was like, you guys don't want to do the final 2? Like, nah, we're done. I'm like, wow, okay.
Well, and the players were so incredibly invested in that story and those characters. And that was the campaign that we played through like COVID lockdown. So it was like their outlet for a long time. So it's like, well, it was sort of a story in 3 acts. We did Dragon Heist, we did Curse of Strahd, Dragon Heist into Curse of Strahd, and then Curse of Strahd into sort of a homebrew 3rd act where I brought in a little bit of Frostmaiden, a little bit of Tomb of Annihilation, whatever. And just to sort of pump things up and get us to those higher levels or whatever. So they could sort of hang on to those characters for a while and continue telling those stories. But I haven't done that long of a campaign with them since, except that I put all of my campaigns sort of in the same world. Mm-hmm. So I've got a calendar of like, oh, this is when you were doing Witchlight, and this is how that overlaps with your current campaign and all these other things. Then I'm going to sort of end that meta arc world with Vecna, Eve of Ruin, which will tie everything up, because it turns out all of the other problems and all the other campaigns were actually the machinations of Vecna all along.
Yeah, gotcha.
So
that's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I had a bunch that were tied together. My Tyranny of Dragons, my what was it? Storm King's Thunder, the Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Those were all connected. Like the events of each of those had effects on the other ones. And I think like in running Chult, Tomb of Annihilation, they, like those things could have happened, but they were far enough away that it wouldn't, there wasn't a connection. So like, Rime of the Frostmaiden didn't really tie into any of the others, but the Sword Coast stuff, kind of all tied together well.
Yeah, I didn't really run Frostmaiden. I just sort of stole the buried flying city at the end. So
yeah, sure, that was a fun place. Yeah. So I think like the only tricky bits are like making sure, and I'm just keeping my hands on the dials. I think with it of like making sure that the things that are going on are fun for the characters to do. They're not completely overwhelming everything that they face because they're so powerful already. But I'm not cheapening things. So like, an example is like damage resistance, right? A lot of them have damage resistance to a lot of different things. How cheap is it for like Zareth, who's this fiendish ancient red dragon, for his fire breath to pierce through resistance to fire, right? And it's like, did they all bother to get resistance to fire so that the one guy they would want to be resistant to can burn through it? I'm like, alternatively, I could just have him double the amount of damage he does. Right? You're still resistant, but he's doing 160 points of damage.
Make their choices matter. Give it 150%, not a full 200%.
Yeah, right. So, that's a good point, right? Yeah. Like throw it up. If he does 90, make it 135 or so,
Right.
140 points.
So it's doing more damage. So it can still burn through the resistance a little bit, but their choice for that resistance mattered.
And then I do have these. So I use this thing called Dreadful Blessings, which and this is probably my number one lesson from running this massive, high level, very complicated, multiple versions of 5e at the same table game, was that I have this thing on my side that allows me to cheat my ass off and not upset players. And that's Dreadful Blessings. That each Ozymandias and Xerath are each going to have 5 of them. And they are essentially legendary resistance that they can use for anything else. So they can punch through. I did it with another game where they're fighting Demogorgon, and they used a wall of force to create like a shell around some people who needed to heal up in front of Demogorgon. And it happened for one round, and then he grabbed it and broke it in half. And they're like, "You broke a wall of force in half." the very thing, and it's because he used one of his legendary, he used one of his Dreadful Blessings to do so.
A while ago, in the middle of my Witchlight campaign, I had this idea to steal ideas from Blades in the Dark.
Yeah,
and one of them I'm actually playing with this in this session, where I did sort of the group template. And I tied it to the idea of a patron and sure. Whatever. And I wrote up this whole modification of sort of the group template idea for specifically for D&D. And that's going well. But the other idea that I think I'm stealing a little bit from there, although I've seen it in some other games too, that plays into this is like, it would be fun to do a whole campaign where you use the dark blessings or whatever. That's what you called it, right?
I call them Dreadful Blessings.
Dreadful Blessings.
Doom points. Tales of Valiant calls them Doom points.
Okay, but I
was being crafty because that was something they hadn't released under their open license. So I'm using it differently. I'm going to call it something else, and then they released it under Creative Commons.
Okay.
So I could go back to calling it Doom points now, but
the Dreadful Blessings. Are you familiar with Blades in the Dark?
Yeah.
So use them like a devil's bargain sort of thing, right? Where through the whole campaign, I'm just going to like tempt you every now and then. I'll let you re-roll that thing, or I'll let you make that save or whatever. But I get this, and then you make sure to hoard like 20 of them for that last battle.
So like you can think of the same with like having fear and Daggerheart, right?
Yeah. Okay.
You rolled with fear. You rolled with fear. I now get a fear token that I can use for things. So it's not an uncommon thing. And what I found is I've run it for 3 different groups now, and so like 18-ish people have seen these, and people like them better than Legendary Resistance, which is shocking.
Okay.
But they prefer them, and the main reason why is they know I only have so many, and they know I'm going to use them frequently. So now they actually are like happy to burn them down. They're happy to use save or suck spells. Like I've got a rogue who's like, I'm totally going to try to stun the guy because like I know he's got these things, but if I can get rid of them by chain stunning him, that's less that he can use them to tear us to shreds. And so they feel I usually give more than they typically would get, especially at higher levels. That's why they get like 5 each.
Yeah.
But like they'll be happy to burn down Ozymandias's 5 things. So I always have those in reserve. So I can do things like he's going to spend one of these and his next attack pierces through resistance. And they're like, that's fine because he had to burn one of those to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. There you go.
So it's little tricks like that I think I'll pull off. But it's a little nerve wracking because it's like this is the big battle of the campaign. Like even the thing happening afterwards is not going to be as big a deal. Like them facing Vriss is not their big thing. Them killing Ozymandias is absolutely what they've been trying to do for since session 1, they heard his voice, right? So like the very first session, they knew he was around, or they knew that people were working to try to bring him back. So it worked out. So it's going to be a wild time.
That sounds like a blast. I look forward to hearing next month how it all turned out.
Sure. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to it to be done.
Right.
So I can kind of relax and go to play, and we're going to probably play Dragonbane next.
Yeah.
And I just want to chill out and play Dragonbane.
Whenever
right? Like a nice, easier system without quite the...
Whenever I find myself getting to like the last third of a campaign, I start looking ahead to the next one. Yeah. And like when my players decided that we were going to play our current campaign, which is Phandelver and Below, we did it with the idea of like, oh, and then after that, we want to do Light of Xerxes, the Spelljammer campaign.
Sure.
And after that, we're going to do
I ran
Eve
that
of Ruin. So we already know what the next 3 campaigns are. So like, not only am I now at a point in our campaign where I'm starting to think a little bit ahead, and I'm starting to like plant seeds for what's going to happen in the next campaign, because it's all the same shared world and all that kind of stuff. But like, 4 out of the 5 of my players have already made their character for the Spelljammer campaign.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
Like, there's a part of it where I hate that, and there's another part of it's like, I'm glad you're anxious for the next campaign, but like, let's stay here.
Unless they all have their idea for a character that's built independently of every other character, and you're like, would be really great if all you guys built your characters together.
I try to do a session 0 where we build the characters together and all that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works, and sometimes
I haven't. Yeah, and it can be a little awkward. But one of the things I do is like, you're not allowed to bring one character. You can bring 2 or 0. Right, you bring 2 characters, and then very likely one of those will work into the thing.
Yeah,
or 0 characters is preferred, where you can build it with everyone else.
That.
Yeah, and that way, and you're not allowed to fall in love with one of them.
Okay.
Right. You can't bring 2, but you like this one, you hate the other. Like, you got to both have to be characters you would want to play and need to be different enough from one another. And that helps split people's brains up enough that they're not so wound around their story, and they usually can kind of better integrate with a group. But I also like to surprise people and not
I'm going to steal that. That's good advice, and I like that you're giving me advice during your segment.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah. I told you everything about mine. Yeah. So
great.
But yeah, so then the plan after that, I've got a lot of games that are going to be changing, and so this one we're probably going to do Dragonbane for a little bit, see how we feel about it. There's a campaign adventure that comes in the starter set that I'd be happy to run, but maybe we'll do 2 and see if we like it. I don't know if people dig it or
I don't know that I know Dragonbane.
Yeah, so Dragonbane is made by Free League. It's an old Swedish RPG that was made when D&D didn't have any support for Sweden, and
so they made their own.
Nothing that was in their language, and they took the mechanics from RuneScape and built a generic fantasy RPG around RuneScape, which was a D100 roll under. They turned it into a D20 roll under, and so it's a fantasy RPG, kind of low stakes, high lethality. I wouldn't refer to it like as an old school style game, because it has a very rigid skill system, or very rich skill system.
Okay.
So it actually reminds me of Call of Cthulhu, if you ever played Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
It's got lots of skills, and it's D20 roll under. So the neat thing about it that's kind of unique for people is like, your target number for everything.
Right.
There's no armor class on monsters.
It's a little
you roll your sword skill to see if you hit him with a sword.
Did you ever play or hear about Rollmaster?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Only to make fun of it.
So it was. I mean, it was a little bit like Call of Cthulhu with like the massive skill list and.
Yeah, I mean, this one's not crazy, but it's more than D&D. It's maybe twice as many as D&D. The art is fantastic. The product design is really, really good. And the starter set is probably one of the best values I've seen in a starter set, because the starter set, it's not even a starter set. They call it the core box set, includes a full copy of the whole rules of the game. Okay. So, you have everything to play the entire game within one box. And they have a couple of extra books that they've got. So it looks fun, but it looks lighter weight than what my players are used to. So, we'll see how they dig it. And then after we do that, we're probably going to do Shadow of the Weird Wizard, which I'm excited
I was thinking about doing some Shadow of the Weird Wizard.
Yeah, about half the people in my group have played Shadow of the Demon Lord before, and dug it a lot. So I'm pretty sure we'll like this one too.
The Shadow games play well for like just do 1 or 2 sessions or whatever as sort of a palate cleanser in between campaigns sort of thing.
Yeah, we ran a full campaign. I did a full 0 to 10.
And even then, a full campaign is only like 10
It was 11 sessions.
Yeah.
Right. So I think if we were to do Shadow of the Weird Wizard, and I would do like, hey, let's do 4 and see how we feel. Same way with Dragonbane. Let's do 4 sessions and see how we feel at the end of 4 sessions. And if we dig it, we'll keep going. And my intention for Shadow of the Weird Wizard is to give myself a little more, because my sessions are only 3 hours, and with breaks and talking and stuff, it's really only about 2.5. Mm-hmm. So I need more time than that per each level just to get through a quest. So I think we'll do 2 sessions per level, and then get through it that way. But I don't want to do another 1.5 year long thing.
Right. I mean,
so.
I do, but I like to give it a break in between.
Yeah, I like to give it a break in between two. Yeah, I'll probably want to do another big campaign. And
Plus,
then
plus it
my
gives me
other
a chance.
group is-
It gives me a chance to like play around with all the other games that I own that I never get a chance to play.
That's exactly. Yeah, exactly. And my other group, which is like every other week, it's close. We're getting to the end of that one. I think we're 1 or 2 sessions out from that one, and then we're going to switch to Daggerheart. So we're going to play a Daggerheart game there. So
I've only been starting to scratch the surface on Daggerheart, but it is on my list.
It's really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things.
My wife and I did a one-on-one game with it, and liked the system a lot. I think there's got a lot of really cool stuff going on with it.
Yep.
And then 13th Age, the new 13th Age is on my list too, but the physical books aren't released yet. So I don't even have that in hand. But yeah, there's so many like high production, well-built RPGs that I really want to try. I really want to try a few of them.
Yeah. Nope, there's a lot of cool stuff.
That's it for me.
There. I need more time in my life to game. I need
I'm gaming like crazy and I still don't have the time.
Yeah.
I'm running 3 games a week and I still
I've just got one and I need more. I need to.
Yeah. I'm going through my library and I'm pulling out all sorts of books and I'm like, I'm never going to get to this, and I'm never like, I want to call the library like Sam does. And I've got this giant stack of books and it's like, I'm just never going to get to these. Like their campaign settings or their adventures or their whatever. And I'm like, never in my life. I've got a whole, my library here. I could run probably 4 lifetimes worth of RPGs and then finish it all. You got Tolus sitting right there. 1 book.
Oh, it's just massive. Years. Yeah. No, yeah. I've come to the realization and set some goals for myself recently, like 3-4 months ago, largely from talking to y'all here on this show, that like I own a lot of RPG stuff and I don't take a lot of time to actually read most of it.
Yeah, right.
And there's some great ideas. There's some good inspiration, whatever in there.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to encourage myself to spend less time just doom scrolling or
tell me about it.
Or playing mindless sort of mobile games or whatever, and instead I could open up City of Arches and I've now read about half of City of Arches in the last month or two because I've been trying to do that. So
yeah. Cool. So, I'll tell you, here's an activity, if you can slide it in, that I think is fantastic, is solo gaming. So this is something that is kind of new, but like Dragonbane, the Dragonbane core set I was gushing over, has a set of solo rules written by Sean Tompkin, who did Ironsworn, another fantastic solo RPG. And I've been playing that by myself, and it's really fun, right? Like nice. It's really, really good GM cross training. Like it forces you to do a lot of improvisation. It forces you to take loose prompts and turn them into a cohesive story.
Okay.
You have all sorts of freedom to do what you want because it's just you, so no one cares. But yet you're still kind of building this fun story and learning a system at the same time. Like it's really helped me understand the kind of ins and outs of how Dragonbane plays because I've got this, I've got this thing there. And almost every RPG has some way to do a solo version of it.
Okay.
And I think Sean Tompkin really kind of nailed like how to do that, like what kind of prompts you need and what kind of sort of loose list of random verbs and nouns you can roll on to kind of build a cohesive story. And I really enjoyed it. So like that's another trick for getting more out of these is if they have solo rules, great. I think like that. So I think a lot of the Free League ones do. There's solo rules for One Ring, the Lord of the Rings one. There's solo rules for Vessane, and there's solo rules for Dragonbane. And
I've been solo playing D&D.
Better than doom scrolling or playing a mobile game.
I've been solo playing D&D. It's called Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, that's right. I love Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, it's great.
When you're done with that, you can play Solasta 1 and 2.
Yep.
Solasta's fantastic.
I've got it on my wish list.
Get it when the Steam sale's coming up and you can get it for dirt cheap. And there's Solasta plus like 3 expansions and it's hours and hours and hours of stuff. It's not quite as polished as Baldur's Gate 3, but it's really, really good.
Nice.
It's a great way to get your D&D on. Yeah.
I'll definitely check it out then. All right. It's been 38 minutes. We should go ahead and take a break and transition here for our break here. I want to remind people, if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/thetome-show. Toss in, $1 a month, or if you want to help me out. And I appreciate that. And also, if you want to find us on social media, I'm Squatch on most places, SQUACH. And if you message me there, then I will get a notification and I'll actually open it and check. Mike is not on social media. Go join his newsletter available at slyflourish.com. Is that the gist of it?
I am on the original social media of websites.
Websites and emails. Yeah.
And website and email. Yeah. So slyflourish.com is where you can find all my stuff.
Go follow him.
I think YouTube counts as a social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say go follow him on YouTube or on Twitch.
Yeah, I'd rather you did the podcast, but that's fine. YouTube is how people find me, which is great. But also you can hit the website and the newsletter. And the newsletter is the best way to get everything.
I get my notification every Sunday morning that you're streaming.
Yeah, I stream on Twitch,
and I almost never go because it's Sunday morning.
It's early. It's Sunday. It's Sunday at 9. Right,
I'm making my breakfast and watching cartoons with my son and drinking my tea. So
that's why I record it.
But I'm getting those notifications and I'm thinking about you, Mike. So
thanks. Yeah. Well, that's why you can. That's why you can listen to the edited version.
There you go.
On your favorite podcatcher or on YouTube. Yeah.
All right, now we will transition over to my time to talk about my campaign. Like I mentioned earlier, although I've gotten plenty of talking in during your time, as much as I like having all three of us and having
two of us.
Yeah, with three of us, I like that. But on the other hand, we can get sort of more of a conversation going too. So
right. Not afraid of interrupting somebody else. Yeah.
Right. I mentioned earlier, I am running Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk, I think is the full title. Yep. And we have gotten to the point where I think last time we chatted, they were back in Phandalin. They had just finished the little homebrew 4th obelisk piece location and quest that I created to tie into a couple of their backstories and whatever that dealt with like a giant and / Goliath homestead up in the mountains and whatever. And so we had sort of dealt with all of that, although I don't know that you were here for that episode.
No, but I'm kind of familiar with the adventure, so I'm tracking what's going on.
So yeah, because there's after the raid in the town, there's 3 obelisk pieces for them to go off and find, in 3 different locations, and I
make a 4th,
and I added a 4th one. Yeah. That because I needed some way for whatever reason. My players have a tendency to always make characters that are super suitable to a different campaign. And this one,
because of aforementioned session 0 problem.
Well, and in this campaign, I had 2 of them. And this campaign, they did a good job of waiting till session 0 to make their characters. And then I had 2 of them decide to make characters that were tied to giants. Well, this campaign has nothing to do with giants. My first campaign, they did a bunch of characters that were connected to the Hells. Well, great, because next is sent into Avernus, and so that doesn't matter, So,
right.
Witchlight, they were pretty on point. But yeah, so I got this giant thing, so I'm like, okay, I got to find some way to tie in giants to the whole thing. So I made a 4th location. It was the Goliath character's home that she was sort of driven out of as a young person or whatever. And now she got to go back and be the savior and what have you. And then part of the issue was that at a conclave of the giants, the storm giants had a piece of the obelisk and it was corrupting them, and she brought it back to the stone giant home and it sort of corrupted them. But it turned out she was the storm giant girl that the bugbear character was raised with. And so now she's the big bad of the, so we got to tie in for there. And I'm doing this whole thing. I've got a character who is playing an Aasimar fighter cleric. Yes, fighter cleric, with the idea that she's like a Valkyrie in training. She was born in Asgard and worships Odin and is a Valkyrie in training. And so I've got this other sort of through line that I've introduced in that there's a bunch of different D&D pantheons that all have different Allfathers.
Right.
And so my story is actually they're all the same Allfather, and it was the giants and the dwarves and the humans that divided the god. not that the god was actually three different gods. And so Moradin, Anum, and Odin are all actually just the All-Father, or they used to be, and now they've divided and become three different gods. And so she's just sort of discovering all of these things and dealing with some of that. And so that tied into the giant thing through Anum and all that, and I did a bunch of fun stuff with that. Mm-hmm. Then they went back to Phandalin. There were shenanigans, things happened, whatever. The bard kind of sort of ended up joining the Zhents, not really knowing what the Zhents are. Like, this player has no background with the Zhents and just like, yeah, I'll join the Mafia. That sounds cool. So because it was as a way of getting what they wanted. So that happened. Then they went off to their first of the actual 3 locations in the book. And it's Talhundreth, the Crypt of the Talhund that's sort of under Talhundreth, and Gibbet's Crossing, which is an old like Drow, Svirfneblin, Duergar merchant outpost place. I don't know why they did this, and I didn't realize it until I started playing it. But the adventure kind of assumes that they go to Talhundreth first. And it makes sense that you do Talhundreth and then the crypt, because the crypt is under the city, right?
Right.
So that makes sense. But then it assumes that after they've done those 2, they go on to Gibbet's Crossing. Like, you don't have to, but like the Mind Flayer that's subservient to the big bad, that's sort of guiding all of the efforts to recover the obelisk pieces, is in Gibbet's Crossing.
Right. So if you go there first,
then you beat the one that's trying to get all the pieces.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if this is like, so I have a thing called the all or nothing collection quest. Right. And then there's this problem that when you have a quest where it's all or nothing, you have to get all the pieces or you don't have anything of value, and the staff of, the Rod of 7 Parts is an example. And this might be an example. I'm not really sure. That you get kind of stuck where it's like, oh, if the characters do the right thing at the right time, they circumvent everything else in the adventure. Like all they need to do is get one thing, and they've stopped the bad guy, right? From
so this isn't exactly that, and in fact, like, obviously the players want to collect all the pieces, and if I'm being honest, the adventure, like, each of those pieces is set up in a way and in a location where it seems incredibly likely that they will collect all the pieces. Right. But actually, like, the last chapter of the adventure is more interesting if they don't, because it changes the location of the Mind Flayer fanatics at the end. And like, if they don't get any of the pieces, then the Mind Flayers are all like despondent. It's like, oh no, we can't do the big bad evil ritual that we wanted to do, and they've like turned on each other, and it's like less interesting. If they at least get one of the pieces, then there's like, they can use what they have. The ritual will just be harder or less effective.
Yeah,
or whatever.
And that's right. So that's sort of like the way to kind of defeat the all or nothing. I call it the 3 of 5 quick keys model, right? Which is, you only need some of them, and maybe even one, right? If the idea is like, the Mind Flayers would be, then they remember the crowns, the masks in Tyranny of Dragons were the same way, that like, you're not going to stop Tiamat from coming, but you could hinder her, if the more of these masks you get a hold of.
I mean, if you homebrew it that way, but as written, none of the masks are real anyway.
Right. Yeah. While you're getting them, your mask is in another castle.
Right.
Yeah,
Every single one of them is a failure.
It teleported. All right. There's a box with a teleporter in it, and it teleported.
I remember we talked at length about how to fix that when that came out.
And that's kind of what clued me in, right? It's like, the funny bit is they did that sort of bait and switch throughout the whole thing, and didn't need to. And in my game, we didn't. In my game, I was like, I'm not doing that. And they got one. And so they I think they had a couple of them.
Yeah.
And then the Cult of the Dragon had to do something else, which was sacrifice ancient dragons in order to summon Tiamat. Right?
There you go. Perfect.
They had to do the thing they didn't want to do, and that's a solution. Is like, the bad guys are still gonna what's their backup quest, right? What is the backup thing the bad guys are gonna do if you thwart them? And maybe the backup is worse, right? Maybe the backup is something you don't want and they don't want, but they have to do it anyway because they got to do it in order to do whatever.
Yep. So anyway, so I've already sort of assumed that, well, by the time they got to the Mind Flayer that's leading the quest to gather the obelisk pieces, like, he's already sent the other teams out to go get things and gave them instructions about how to get to the portal to bring it to the bad guys. So that's fine. And then I can use that to sort of hint at the next chapter where they go to where the portals are, and they'll find the notes with the instructions on it or whatever, on the bodies that they find there and whatever. Right. So they work their way. But the part of it that is weird to me is that they assume that Gibbet's Crossing is the last place that the characters will go, but it's the place that's actually the closest to Phandalin. Like, not by much, but it's naturally, sort of geographically, the first place they'll go.
Right.
And in fact, because of that, mine did. That's the first place they went. And so they cleared out Gibbet's Crossing and they killed the Mind Flayer. And it was a good reminder for me, like, DMs and adventure writers, they lace a lot of lore into their locations. And I feel like a lot of it is done primarily because it's interesting to read for the DMs, and also because it helps create a sense of internal consistency. Like, why is this thing here to justify this encounter? Well, let's build some lore around that. And it doesn't really matter to the current campaign, but it's interesting flavor, and it helps build this like reasoning and this justification and this internal consistency. And it was a good reminder to me, because like Gibbet's Crossing is an old abandoned outpost where the Duergar and the Svirfneblin and the Drow came together and used their various skills and resources, and they made gibbets that were really good. You know, it was a merchant enterprise or whatever. And so there's this backstory to explain why these three different Underdark races are there, so that you get a little bit of like extra Underdarkiness, that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten in the campaign and whatever. But most of that lore is superfluous to this adventure. And the characters are just running around. It's like, oh, neat. There's like these cages and whatever, who cares? Oh, there's a chain devil. What does that matter? Right? Well, the chain devil is actually there to help them test the cages. And so there's this lore behind it. And it was a good reminder for me as a DM, like, give out more lore and information more easily and more than you think is really appropriate. Like, figure out what makes sense and then take it up about 3 notches and give them 3 notches more lore than actually makes logical sense. Yeah. Because otherwise all that stuff doesn't matter. Like, it's all just it's all just for the DM to enjoy.
Yeah, and that I mean, this is my big secrets and clues thing too, which is like this kind of lore is what separates one game from another, really. Because if you peel everything back, it's kind of, we've been playing that, as my friend's wife was like, you go over and you play this game every week. Is it the same game? And to her, it's like we're playing Sorry, right? Like we're going and playing the same game every week for 10, 12 years. And it's that lore that really makes things different, right? I mean, because like a collection quest is the same as every other collection quest until the monsters are different.
From the 10,000 foot view, every campaign is the same bullet points and the same stories.
A lot of it, right?
Yeah.
The same 10 quest types.
Yeah.
Of kill a dude, get a thing, get 5 things, rescue someone. Right.
Stop the ritual, rescue the prisoners.
Exactly. Rescue prisoner. And so it's who they are and why they're there and what happened and what's the history here and what is this dungeons, Dyson map. I love Dyson maps, right? But they all, the shapes are different, but they look pretty similar until you wrap them in flavor. And that flavor, that's what makes Numenera completely different from, Shadowdark, right? The flavor that you put on it.
I played with that a little bit earlier. So in Phandelver Below, there is like a scholar character, Gwyn Orsong, who's the sister of Elsa Orsong, who's like the barmaid at the inn. She's been helpful to them, and they've utilized her expertise on occasion. But they also are like, but you're a scholar from Neverwinter, like you have other connections. There's clearly this weird Far Realmy stuff going on. Can you find an expert to get more information about this Far Realm stuff, because it's outside of your expertise? And it's like, well, the adventure doesn't plan for that, but I'm like, this sounds like a fun opportunity. So I created a weird warlock, and this is actually where I layered in seeds for the next campaign, because warlocks oftentimes have patrons that are like dying stars and that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
right.
this patron is a patron of a great old, or of the great old one, and their patron is the star Xerxes from Light of Xerxes.
Yeah. Right.
And I,
cool.
I got to introduce him in fun ways, because the idea was like, oh, he teleported here. He teleported into the inn where you're at, but he was up in the tiers of Selûne, the asteroids up in the moon that surround the Forgotten Realms. And there's like star bases and stuff in there for spelljammers and whatever. So he was up there investigating what the hell is going on with Xerxes and what these elves are up to. And then he got the message, and so he used his helm of teleportation to come down to Phandalin. But, gravity was different there. So he actually teleported onto the ceiling and then fell into the middle of the inn and introduced himself. And I got to do my crazy NPC voice and whatever. And my players love it when I play stereotype crazy. And so so I invented this whole other NPC that gave them all this lore about the Far Realm. And on one hand, he's like, well, these aren't my Far Realm people. But on the other hand, like, the Far Realm is really close here and it feels cool. So I'm not sure I want you to succeed. So now did they just summon another villain that's going to get in their way that they actually kind of like because he's goofy and charming? I don't know. We'll find out, But yeah. So I like to play around and add to the lore and share more than you think makes sense. I think is good advice, especially for locations where the lore is just about the location and not about the larger campaign. Like, share the hell out of that stuff, because otherwise they're never going to see it.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah. And just to pass another dirty trick. Another dirty trick I have for like how to hand out that lore, like you were talking about, pour it on them, right?
Yeah.
Is when I go through my 8 steps, step 1 is review the characters. And lately what I've been doing is saying, what is a secret that the character knows in the next session? Like what is something that they would know about? And then now I can take lore that I've got in it and I can tie it to a character specifically. And because this character is a former member of the Mages of Cartan, he knows that if Xaereth destroys the Tower of Cartan, it's going to be an ecological disaster, beyond anything known, because of the crazy magic they've been keeping that tower for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So, instead of just kind of throwing the lore out, I think the difference between like boring ass monologues and really interesting lore is when you say because you are an X, why. Right.
And then that also makes their choices matter.
They did it. That's right. And right, exactly. Because you're a paladin, because you're a paladin and a knight of the Black Flame, that this is true. Or because you were a member of the one of the KOs, your phantom memories of the previous KOs remind you of what this battle is like. So there's a lot of there's a lot of ways of tying that lore to the characters directly, which I think makes it a lot more applicable and interesting to the players than if you just kind of spout lore.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
To use a Apocalypse World term.
Right. And so then they worked from there. There's a tunnel that goes straight from Gibbet's Crossing to Tel Hundredth. So they took the tunnel instead of going overland, but it still kind of dumps them out right at the front door anyway. So that, going through Tel Hundredth ends up being the same. They've gone through part of Tel Hundredth. They've run into a Medusa that they've dealt with, and it's an opportunity. Tel Hundredth. So the Talhund, to dig into some Forgotten Realms lore, is the name for followers of Dumathoin, the dwarven god of the secret under the mountain, which is generally interpreted as a mining god. The secret under the mountain is like the ore and the gems and all that kind of stuff. But I am playing more heavily into this is another god of secrets, and we're getting ready to build up to this. The big bad of the whole meta arc is this god of secrets. So it's another god of secrets, and there's this whole I gave him this powerful item or artifact thing that was connected to Dumathoin, and the player is like, I don't really want that. This isn't doing mechanically, magically, this doesn't do anything for me, even though it's dedicated to my god, so somebody else has it. It's like, oh, this is my chance to give you more spotlight, but okay.
Right.
But on the way to Tel Hundredth, I decided to throw in an extra little encounter instead of just a random encounter. I put together an encounter that was an Arrhenius had been sent on the hunt for one of the characters. Had specifically been sent on the hunt for the Bugbear character, who had a lot of spotlight early in the campaign and hasn't really had much spotlight since. He he's a bugbear who was a descendant from the Kragmaw people, but was adopted by giants, abandoned and adopted by giants, and now he came back and he freed the Kragmaw people from King Groll, and he's taken over the Kragmaws and he's making them less bandits and more mercenaries, and and all that kind of stuff. And so I decided that King Groll's soul is, of course, in hell, and was able to sort of bargain to send this Erinyes after him to drag his soul into hell, so he could replace him or whatever, punish him, whatever. But I also used it to play into the Aasimar Valkyrie in training character, and the Erinyes entered their camp while they were resting, and I made sure that it happened during her watch, so that the Erinyes would approach and be like, hey sister, we're basically just two sides of the same coin, sort of playing up that, Erinyes are basically just infernal Valkyries, right? I mean, they're, so it's more or less the same concept. And so she tried to, she made that point and tried to bargain with her and give her a little bit of a spotlight moment sort of in somebody else's thing and for a random encounter. Now it turned out that the Erinyes was not a threat, because you've got a party of 5 8th level characters, and they all won initiative and just beat down that Erinyes in one round. Right. But that wasn't the point. The point was the story and the social interaction and all that. So that happened, and then they've got to Talendrith, and they've cleared about, I don't know, a third of Talendrith at this point, and they've gotten some extra lore. There's an intellect snare in there that actually shows them a vision of the dwarves of Doom of Thorin there fighting one of the Mind Flayers when the Mind Flayers invaded 100 years ago and destroyed the civilization and whatever. So you get some interesting lore and information that way, and that was a lot of fun. So that's more or less where my campaign is. If we have a little bit of time, I have asked, like every episode that we've done, I've asked for discussion on ideas for spotlighting different characters. Mm-hmm. Right? The one I haven't gotten to yet is that Valkyrie character. Now, this is a player who, in that first campaign, the Dragon Heist Curse of Strahd campaign, got so much spotlight time that there was actually complaints that she kind of became the main character of the story. Right? Yeah. Right. And she heard that, and I heard that, and we've adjusted since. But as a result, sometimes it seems like she is a player holds back and does not invest as heavily as she did in that first campaign. But I'd like to still give her some spotlight opportunities. Sure. And so I'm looking for ideas, because this is not an all-father based campaign. This is a far realmy sort of thing, right? So how do I bring in more all-fatheriness, whether it be Odin or Annam or Moradin or whatever, to give her as a Valkyrie in training? And part of the idea is that she did her basic training or whatever in Asgard, and now she's doing sort of the standard Valkyrie training of, we send you off to one of our outposts and you have to survive and go out and do good things in the world or whatever before you come back. Yeah.
I mean, the kind of the whole separation of the law of the Pantheon and the chaos of the Far Realm, can always come into play where, just as a Valkyrie that supports the gods, all the Far Realm stuff is a complete anathema to all of the order that exists between gods and mortals and normal worlds, right?
I have a tendency,
so alien.
Yeah, no,
it's not even we understand devils and demons, but this thing is so alien. It has to be,
and the
darkness will quell.
To give you a sense, the larger sort of meta story, if you want to get into the whole Vecna thing. The story of Phandelver and Below in my campaign is only possible because of the story in Witchlight. Because in my multiverse, if you will, Zybilna was sort of Dresden Files style, Winter Court style, was the guardian that protected this world from the Far Realm, and her being frozen in time by her sisters is what has allowed the Far Realm to sort of start leaking into the prime material world.
Yeah, I did something similar with my
with your
Beyond the Witchlight game
with your Ravenloft stuff.
Yeah, the rifts. Yeah.
So that's sort of how I played that out, and so that's why this is possible. And largely Vecna has done this. He also was involved in Descent into Avernus, and the main goal ended up being at the end, like, use the PCs to overthrow Zariel, install a new ruler, incite civil war in the Hells, and all of these things are largely being done. In Curse of Strahd, they released the Dark Lords from the Amber Coffins in the third act, and it was all being done because, like, if I do this threatens the existence of reality, the gods will have to pay attention to that and won't realize what the hell I'm doing. Right? That's sort of the Vecna meta plot. But it would be interesting because Odin specifically has this, like, seer thing, right? He can see the future and or has access to the runes and has hidden, reveals hidden knowledge and that kind of stuff. Maybe Odin is one of the gods, or one of the only gods that has kind of gotten a glimpse of what Vecna is up to, and can use her to sort of counteract some of it, or at least give her hints of it. The trick I have with that is that as a DM, I have a lot of fun with gods directly interacting with characters.
Sure.
Like, powerful godlike or god entities interacting with mortals and guiding them and whatever. That's fun roleplay, right? That's just a good time. But because I know I'm inclined to do that kind of stuff, I try to actively avoid it unless it's really warranted. So that becomes the question here of, how does Odin talk to her about these things without it just being Odin, or is it appropriate in this case to just have Odin talk to her?
I mean, I think, like, it could be right, like, because you're not making a huge storyline element, right? You're just connecting to the backstory, and the idea of, that Odin directly comes to her to say, like, hey, these rifts are a disease, right? This opening to the Far Realm is a disease that could destroy everything if it's not pushed back. And you, as my Valkyrie, you're on the spot, right? Like, we checked all the radars and you're the only person close to this thing, right? It's up to you to go stop this, right? I'm counting on you. And you could do sort of a 13th Age style, icon sort of thing where she, or Clash of the Titans, right? Like, if you're going to go into it's Greek, not
not Norse,
not Norse, but it could still be like, there are gifts that are laid out or along the way. Like, I'll help you, right? And you'll find things along your journey that can help you in this quest too. I think that, that could be enough, right?
Well, and it's entirely reasonable to think that she might, in her daily prayers, she's asking Odin questions, and maybe surprisingly one time Odin actually answers, sort of thing.
Yeah. Right.
Or
you could even have like a weird old mysterious Odin statue found super deep underground.
Yes.
It's not, who knows how it got there.
Well, and I mean, it's like, whether they're in a dwarven civilization, a giant civilization, or a human civilization, because of this story that I've told that all the Allfathers are actually the same. Like, she could be saying a prayer to the statue of Moradin and have the same thing.
That's right. And on the statue thing, one of the things that I kind of dig is the Kobold Press style masks, right?
Yeah.
Like, you talked about that. Are they really one god, or are they now actually split into three? And I think that's kind of an interesting thing that you could play with, right? Where you don't. And
it also occurs to me, given Odin sort of lore, what little mythology I know of Norse mythology, it would be fun and funny and still meaningful to have it be like, she's praying at a statue of Moradin as the Allfather, and the statue starts speaking to her, and then she realizes that behind the head of the statue there's actually a raven, and it's the raven that's talking to her, because that's how Odin sends messages and that kind of stuff, right? So that could be a fun way to do it too.
If you want to see a badass movie that has a lot of like really awesome imagery that you can pilfer for stuff, The Northman is a really fun kind of almost Conan style movie set in Norse with Alexander Skarsgård is the lead actor.
Okay.
It's the guy who did did he do The Witch? Eggers? I think Eggers is the director's name.
Okay.
Kind of brutal movie, but it's got one of the fun bits. It's old kind of Norse style, Viking movie, but there are these periodic sort of visions that occur in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. Yeah, Robert Eggers is the director.
Okay.
And it's really, really good.
I'll look it up.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I had another question or another topic I wanted to talk about, but now I forgot what it was because we got to talking about other stuff. So maybe it'll occur to me, and I'll figure it out on my own, or I'll bring it to the Discord channel and we'll talk about it there. So
sure.
But we're past an hour, so I think it's time to wrap up if that's cool.
Sure. Good
All
conversations.
Right. Yep, this is fun. We miss Sam, but I think we have successfully managed to fill the time for people and have good conversations here about our games. So this will be fun. I guess that's it for tonight, and I want to thank all of you for checking us out. If you want to join us on the Tome Show's Discord, that's where all the magic happens. If you want to get the link for that, you can email thetomeshow@gmail.com and I will give it to you. Or if you just want to reach out to me and say hi or ask a question, we have been known in the past when people send DMing questions, either here or on the Discord. There's a Behind the DM Screen channel on the Discord. You can post your DMing questions, and occasionally when somehow we finish a little bit early, the two or three of us will talk through and discuss your topics and questions too. So send those along. All right. With that said, that's the end of this episode. So say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike. Wait.